Thank you for tuning in to Macro View Television, and welcome to a brand new edition of Taiwan Outlook, the program that presents the different faces and lets you hear the different voices on Taiwan. I'm your host, Wearable. Do you enjoy having some wearable devices on you? And if you do, what is your reason for having them? We're going to find out on today's program because we're delighted to have as our special guest Mr. Wang, who's the founder of Noodoe Corporation, to talk about the newly launched Noodoe Watch and the global wearable device market in general. Welcome to the program, John.
How are you, Raymond?
Yeah, I'm good, and it's a pleasure to have you on the program.
Delighted to be invited.
Okay. And John, let me ask you, can you start off the program by telling us a little bit about yourself, including your education? I understand you have done very well, academically. You went to MIT and also at Harvard. Tell us a little bit about your background.
I love innovation.
Yes.
I went to MIT to learn how to invent great things.
Okay.
And I went to Harvard to learn how to bring these ideas to the consumers.
All right.
When I look at the past 40 years in the high-tech industry, I noticed that every 10 years, there was a wave. Right. In the 80s, it was the PC revolution wave. In the 90s, the internet revolution. The last 10 years, mobile revolution.
Okay.
Now, the question is, what would be the next big thing? Usually, these big waves are fairly obvious. During the mobile revolution era, there was no doubt in our minds that smartphones were becoming an everyday object in our life, right?
Yes.
So the next big wave will be Internet of Things, and wearable is a very small part of IoT. Okay. We want to innovate in the next big wave, and therefore I started Noodle to create innovation that are meaningful for consumers' life.
Okay. But John, a lot of people would say that, before Noodle, you were, of course, the head of the global marketing department for HTC.
Yes.
It was a very good job. It was very comfortable, I would imagine. What prompted you to make the change in your life, in your career, and found this Noodoe Corporation when you knew the challenges ahead could be tough? What was the motivation?
I love challenges.
Okay.
When I joined HTC, more than 10 years ago, it was a factory.
All right.
We infuse and cultivate an innovation culture within HTC and transform a factory into an innovation powerhouse. Subsequently, we turned this company around into a global brand.
Of course. Yes.
I love challenges like that. And I love big challenges even more. The next big challenge, of course, will be in the space of Internet of Things and wearable. So I'm eager to create brilliant things for consumers in the next 10 years.
Okay. And what was the reason to set up, Noodoe Corporation? And did you have in mind any specific product when you first established the company? For example, wearables like watches or other things?
Internet of Things includes so many things, not just wearable, but we have to start somewhere.
Of course.
And out of all the things that connect to the internet, of course, in the early stage of a development of a new industry, people care about what's closest to them the most, hence wearable. And from the products that you can see in the market, it's obvious that a lot of people are thinking about wearables nowadays.
Of course.
When we think about a smartwatch, we often think about those step counters, sleep monitors, heart rate trackers.
Okay.
The Apple Watch even lets you send your heartbeats to others.
Okay.
But we ask the question, does every watch need to have so many features? Some should, but not every watch needs to do that.
Okay.
What if there were a blank watch that has no features? Not just a few features, but no features. Then you get to infuse your ideas into it. and it becomes something that only you have.
All right.
It's almost like a blank canvas for your imagination. And that was the initial motivation for creating the first product of Noodle.
Okay. But in your opinion, what is the current state of the global market for wearable devices? You know, people talk about IoT, and you said that, you know, wearable devices is only a small part of it. So how do you think the potential for the global market for wearable devices is? Is there a lot of potential, a lot of room for growth? Or is it something that you would think only as a door opener into other things in the IoT area that will bring something even bigger? What is your view?
I remember 20 years ago, I was asking a question to myself.
Okay.
What is the potential of the internet?
All right.
And I remember 10 years ago, when I was at HTC, I was thinking, you know, other than those people who want to check email on their phone, is there any potential for smartphones?
Okay.
And of course, in retrospect, we discovered that the opportunity that face the industry globally is far bigger than we could have imagined. Okay. And I think 10 years later, when we look back at this industry, we are going to discover the same thing, which might not be something that we can identify and specifically realize today. But one thing we know for sure, that there are many things beyond our current expectation that will transform itself in the next 10 years.
All right. And let's talk a little bit, because so far the Noodoe Corporation has come up with one product, and that is the Noodoe Watch.
Yes.
And you mentioned earlier it's going to be a blank watch. It doesn't really have any setting features other than your own imagination.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about this concept of Noodoe Watch. What exactly do you expect consumers to do with it? Please.
Noodle Watch is like wearable Legos.
Okay, all right.
When you get a box of Lego, you don't get a default airplane.
No.
You get a box of Legos.
That's right.
You actually
need to
have
assemble.
That's right. Or you actually have to think. You have to imagine.
All right.
You have to use your own hands to build something. But you know what? Once you do that, it's something that belongs to you.
Okay.
It's yours.
Yeah, it's unique.
It's unique. Right. That's the philosophy behind Noodle Watch.
Okay.
There are plenty of products out there where everything is taken care of for you.
Okay.
It's instant gratification, and we love instant gratification nowadays.
Yes, of course.
Right? But I also believe that in a world of instant gratification, we, as human beings, is losing a little bit of that innate nature to imagine, to think, and to create.
Okay.
And at Noodle, we want to reverse that course. Okay. We want to encourage people to create your own things, to express your own idea. Right. Very similar to what Lego has done to our world.
Okay. But, your watch must do something basic. For example, does it tell the time? Or it doesn't have the time-telling function either?
When I say a blank watch, I literally mean a blank watch. You take it out of the box, and it is blank, not even having time.
Okay.
To have time, you build it.
All right.
But we give you the easy building blocks to create your own expression of time.
All right.
For instance, a student from USC, he had an idea of representing time using poker cards. Ace is 1 o'clock, 2 is 2 o'clock,
of course.
Jack is 11, and Q is 12. That might not be something that you want or I want, but that's his idea.
Of course.
To him, this is his own way of expressing time.
Okay.
And this is what we like to encourage people to do, because the world has enough of instant gratification.
Okay.
The result of that is that tomorrow, when you see somebody wearing a Noodle on the street, you know that Noodle is one of a kind. You know how we have limited edition that has the ink, that has words written on them. Says 2 of 2000s, right?
Yes.
Well, every Noodle is one of one.
Okay. But let me ask you, John, if I want to complicate my life, I want to have all these different features. The Noodle Watch can still pretty much accommodate. For example, not just telling time, but also in terms of receiving email. When I carry also at the same time my cell phone.
Yes.
And then I can also send, text messages, through Line, Facebook, and other things. Those are still achievable with a Noodle Watch, is it?
Yeah. The fundamentals of a Noodle Watch, it is still a smartwatch.
Okay.
So when you receive an incoming phone call, you can look at your watch to see who is calling.
Okay.
When you miss an SMS, it tells you that you missed an SMS.
Right.
It does that.
Okay, it does the basic functions.
But so do 200 other smartwatches.
Oh, yes.
Right. What's unique and what I believe is really missing nowadays is for people to do more than just the standard instant gratification. 200 years ago, the way we look at clock or we look at watches is a tool for telling time. Today, we have smartphones. If we want to tell time, we don't need a watch anymore.
No.
So it begs the question, why do people wear watches?
Okay.
Is it to tell time for utility purpose?
Okay.
Or is it for self-expression?
All right.
When we see somebody wearing a Chanel watch, is she wearing a watch or is she wearing a bracelet that happens to tell time? Today's answer is very different from that same answer 20 years ago.
Of course. Right. All right. John, what we're talking about, your concept, which is fascinating to me at least, about how to design a wearable that let people's imagination really dictate the kinds of functions that people want to have. And I suppose that you have a Noodle Watch laying in front of you. Is that correct?
Yes.
Can we see what you have put into the Noodle Watch?
Sure.
For example, what is the interface that you have in the beginning, please?
Okay. This is Noodle Watch.
Okay.
And I designed this building inside the watch.
Okay, and that is Taipei 101. Is that correct? All
That's right.
So, anybody who buys a Noodle Watch, they can design their own interface as they wish. It's not difficult.
That's right.
Okay.
Almost like Legos.
Okay.
Anybody who open a box of Lego can use the building block to let their imagination run wild.
Okay.
And I created Taipei 101 at 1 o'clock. The first few floors of the building would light up.
Okay.
At 2 o'clock, more floors light up.
Okay.
And by
Very
12
good
o'clock,
concept.
the entire building lights up.
All right.
You can do whatever you want. I saw a student who designed a tree. And at 1 o'clock, you just have a little bean sprout. And then by 12 o'clock, you have a full-grown tree. Very creative.
But let me ask you, Johnny, if I'm not very artistic, and do you have the tools building to help me to, draw a tree or, draw something else? I mean, do you have the tools available?
We want people from all walks of life to be able to enjoy the process of imagination.
Okay, good.
So there are some default components, building blocks that you can use if you don't want to draw anything.
All right.
But if you want to draw something, it's actually pretty easy as well. We invented a feature called camera brush.
Oh, okay.
How does it work? Just use a pen and a piece of paper, any pen, doodle on a blank sheet of paper, and then use the camera on your phone to take a snapshot. Whatever you doodle on a piece of paper shows up right here.
Really?
Be it a tree, a figure, a few words, or anything you want. Because at the end of the day, one of the most intuitive and most natural user interface is still pen and paper.
Okay. And John, let me ask you, before you launched the Noodle Watch, you must have studied all the different wearable devices, including watches, that are available in the market. And you probably found that a lot of these functions on the watches and the wearables are really, overlapping.
Yes.
Okay. So, in your opinion, before you came out with the blanket, watch, type of concept, that what are some of the functions that you think a wearable device should have?
I don't think there is a single answer to that question, just like there is not a single answer about the kind of clothing or shirt or eyeglasses that we need, right? Clothing serve one single function, but look at the diversity of products out there in the market. As individual, we want to express ourselves in our own way.
Of course.
And that's why there are many choices in the market. When we look at wearable devices in the market today,
yes,
there are a common pool of features. But you know what? A lot of people also told us after 1 or 2 months, the novelty worn away. Okay. You know, after knowing that I walked 5,000 steps every day for 30 days, it's the same old story over and over again. And we look at wearable differently. We think that wearable is not just about utility. We do provide utility, like receiving phone call. But wearable is much more than utility. It's about self-expression. Today, self-expression means picking and choosing from what big companies offer to you.
Okay, all right.
But we think self-expression taken to the ultimate level is self-expression using your own idea. You don't pick and choose anymore. You create your own. And you wear something that only you have. That's why we took this self-expression approach when we designed Noodle.
All right. But John, let me ask you, when you came out with the idea that you should not put in any preconceived concept or functions into the Noodle watch, what were some of the challenges that you faced? Could it be challenges coming from potential investors saying that, hey, Mr. Wang, you have a very good concept, but we're going to find it difficult to invest in you because the consumers don't know what you're selling? Or is it because the apprehension over whether the consumers or consuming public can accept the idea that you have a blank watch and it doesn't, other than the fundamentals, you don't really have any additional features built in? What was the biggest challenge to you?
We have great support from investors. We have great support from passionate employees who want to change this world. That's not the biggest challenge.
No.
The biggest challenge is to do something that has never been done in the world. And by definition, it is something unfamiliar to the public. But unless you take that step forward, you never push the boundary further.
True.
And pushing the boundary further means a lot of challenges that we needed to overcome. For instance, a lot of smartwatches require you to charge the watch every day.
Yes.
Charging the phone every day might be acceptable to you, but charging the watch every day, it's a foreign concept, right? So from the very beginning, we say no to that. No matter how innovative a product is, it needs to be something that you don't need to charge every day. Otherwise, it's not a great product. This might sound simple, but it's a problem that many companies have yet to overcome. And we spend a lot of effort to make sure that every Noodle, when we ship, it's not a product that you charge every day, but it's one that you charge every Sunday.
So once a week?
Yes.
And let me ask you then, what are some of the responses that you have so far? I know this is newly launched, but what are some of the responses that you have from the consuming public who have received or who have bought Noodle Watch for the first time?
Noodle Watch will ship at the fourth quarters this year.
So it's only launched, it's not yet readily available.
That's right.
All right.
But we have shared Noodle Watch and announced it at Computex, which just happened not long ago.
Yes.
And Inquirer from UK named Noodle Watch as one of the 9 biggest announcements at Computex.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yes.
And more importantly, if you look at the 9 companies on the list, they are Intel, Dell, AMD, Microsoft, and Noodle.
Okay. So
the only company that's
with
really
the major players,
or the only company that's different from others.
The big boys. Yeah. Yes. Okay. And let me ask you. You mentioned earlier that the next big wave, will be the Internet of Things.
Yes.
All right. And then also people said that a lot of the attention has been paid to the cloud-based apps, and then a lot of the new softwares are coming out. So how do you think? How do you position, wearable devices in the overall scheme of things with, the two major pillars, the IoT and also, the cloud-based apps on the other hand? How do you see the wearable devices in the future?
Wearable is part of IoT.
Okay.
Everything needs to work together as a symphony. Right. So it's not so much one compared against another, but everything needs to be integrated in a seamless way. To consumers, I believe they just need to work. Consumers don't care what each does or does not. We just need to make the life of consumer better. And that's why the whole industry need to think that way.
All right. And John, you used to be the marketing director for HTC. And what is the targeted, audience, the consumers for Noodle Watch? Are you looking at people a little younger, maybe 30, 35 under, or people a little more stable, mature in their career, people 40 and above? Who are your, target audience?
For independent thinkers.
All right.
Noodle is self-expression, using your own idea.
All right.
It's not defined by age group, but defined by personal philosophy.
Okay.
When someone wears a Noodle, that person is making a personal statement.
Of course.
That I don't follow the herd.
All right.
I have my own thinking.
I'm not one of the pack.
I'm not one of the pack.
Yeah.
When I wear something that's uniquely mine.
Okay.
And even more so, uniquely my creation.
Yes.
I don't wear what big companies tell me to wear.
Okay.
I wear what I want to wear to express myself.
Okay.
And there are many products out there in the market that help us self-express.
Okay. Yes.
If we go to a department store, the first floor all the way to the 7th floor, if you think about that, they are all about self-expressions.
Of course.
Right? Electronics product, basement.
Yes.
In one tiny corner, right? I mean, that's a reflection of what human race care about.
All right.
Right? And at Noodle, we don't look at wearable as an electronic product, but a fashion statement.
Okay. It's also part of the people's daily lives as something that they can interact with constantly.
That's right.
All right.
Yeah.
And John, let's talk a little bit about some of the people who are more skeptical about Noodle watches. All right. For example, some of the analysts would say that, hey, John, Mr. Wang, you have a good product, but Noodle Corporation is a little too late to come into the market for wearable devices, because some of the major, the big players like Samsung, Apple, and also Sony, they're already in the field, and also Google with Google glasses. You're a little too late. How do you respond to that?
The IoT era is a long journey.
Of course.
It's the next big wave. 10 years later, we are going to look back and discover so many unimaginable innovation that have taken place. We are only at the very, very first centimeter of the entire journey. Was iPhone too late when Apple introduced the phone many years after Samsung, Sony Ericsson, Nokia, Motorola? In retrospect, one will realize that the mobile revolution is a more than 10-year journey. And there are cycles of innovation that continue to bring values to the consumers. Secondly, Internet of Things, unlike smartphones, is a market that has huge diversity. think about the clothing industry.
Okay.
Think about many consumer industry. There are not just few products, but so many products that fulfill the needs of different type of people, different groups of consumers.
Yes.
So there are going to be many, many winners who provide great value to consumers in this market. Not just Noodle, but many more to come.
And people are going to say then, John, that you have a good product, but, we are, when we talk about, wearable devices, we talk about smart watches. People often refer to Google Glasses, often refer to Apple Watches. How do you then compare Noodle watches with Apple Watches? For example, what is your competitive edge in the competition in comparison with Apple Watches?
Noodle does not compare to Apple Watches.
No.
Noodle is different from Apple Watch.
Okay, yes.
Apple Watch takes care of everything for you.
Okay.
Every single pixel, every feature, every detail is perfectly and meticulously delivered to you. It's the ultimate product of instant gratification.
Okay.
Noodle, on the other hand, says, create your own. We give you nothing.
All right.
We give you a blank canvas, and we let you infuse your idea into this blank canvas.
All right.
At the end of the day, you wear something that everybody wears.
Okay.
You wear something that only you have.
All right.
Hence, Noodle does not really compare to Apple Watch, but it's actually different from Apple Watches.
Yes.
Which is better? Well, depending on who you are. If you want to wear something that is beautiful and that lets you make a personal statement that you have one, that's Apple Watch.
Okay.
If you want to wear something that express yourself using your own idea, and that's one of a kind in this world, there is not going to be a second Noodle like that in this world, then Noodle is the right product for you.
All right. But there are still some, analysts out there, one of which, I will not name his name, but he says something like, Noodle Watch is a good product, but it's in the market too late. The best case scenario for Noodle Watch will be, for Noodle to become a very strong local brand, local product, and in order to attract, people with deeper pockets and coming to help Noodle Watches become a regional and even, possibly international brand. How do you say to that?
Nobody can predict the future that precisely, especially for an emerging new industry that has yet to play out its course.
Okay.
Unlike the smartphone, where we have a few big players that dominate the market, wearable market is very different. Let's take the cue from the traditional watch industry. Not like smartphone.
No.
There are thousands of brands of different watches of different designs. All had its own following.
Of course.
I think 10 years later, when we look at the IoT industry, when we look at the wearable industry, we are going to discover the same thing. It's an industry that is filled with so many innovations for so many different type of consumers. People who love sports, people who love jewelry, people who like to express themselves, people who like music, just like watches, traditional watches, I mean, and just like clothing industry, there are just so many more brands than there are smartphone brands in the world. So I think the future is yet for us to discover.
Okay. And John, let me ask you a little bit about the design and the manufacturing of Noodle watches. Is it purely Taiwan-made? Most of the team members who participated in the design of the Noodle watch Taiwanese. Can we say this is a Taiwanese brand?
Noodle is Taiwan innovation.
Okay.
It is 100% a Taiwan invention and a Taiwan innovation.
All right.
There are many breakthroughs in Noodle, but I believe the best innovation should be invisible.
Yes.
The product should just work.
Yes.
And consumer do not really need to care about the technology or the innovation underneath.
Okay. And a lot of people will say that, John, why do you go through all the trouble? You know, I mean, why do you come up with something that, you know, nobody's ever seen or heard before in the marketplace, and try to come up with something, and you basically have to essentially educate a consuming public to accept your product. Was that ever something like this that held you back or made you have second thoughts about, hey, John, am I doing the right thing?
It is precisely this that made us passionate about breaking new ground, about bringing something that hasn't existed in the world to the consumers. And if we look back at the last 100 years, every era, we need innovators and teams like that to bring new value to consumers. And that's actually precisely the reason that motivates us. Okay.
And what's next for Noodoe Corporation? You said that you're going to be launching or selling, you know, the Noodle watches by the end of, you know, by the fourth quarter of 2015. Let's suppose the market reaction is very positive. And what's next for Noodoe Corporation? Are you thinking about other wearable devices, or are you thinking of maybe branding, you know, the name Noodle first before you come up with another, you know, wearable device? What's next?
IoT includes much more than just wearable.
Of course.
And if you visit our innovation lab, you're going to see a lot of fun inventions. Noodle is one. But even when we do wearable, we want to do something different. We want to do something that's different from the other 200 wearables that you see at CES.
Available in the market.
That's right. But innovation is not just limited to wearable in the next era. For instance, we believe that IoT is going to enhance many parts of consumers' life. When you dine in a restaurant, when you play in an amusement park, when you work at the office, these are all opportunities where IoT can enhance our productivity or our enjoyment. So please stay tuned. We have more to show in the future.
All right. And if you were asked today, you know, you've been doing, you know, Noodoe Corporation for some years now, and if people ask you that, John, looking back in the last few years since you established Noodoe Corporation, do you have any regrets? You know, if you were given the opportunity to go through the same process again, will you?
Definitely. I think in life, we only move forward. And every chapter is a new era that is filled with opportunities. Envision 10 years ago, looking forward, nobody would have ever envisioned WhatsApp, Line, and Facebook. Right? I still remember those days when people were questioning, do I really need internet on my phone? Right? Well, little did we know, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Well, we are standing at about the same place in the next big thing, where we know that IoT and wearables are exciting and are the next big things tomorrow. But we haven't yet defined exactly what those benefits are going to be. And is that the exciting part? So there's still a lot of unknowns out there, and we're going to be discovering along the way. Good. Precisely.
Yes. We talk a little bit about the broader, you know, pictures. And we understand that the wearable devices is something that people have been talking about in the last few years. And ever since, you know, the first concept of Google glasses came out. But do you think the wearable devices is going to be a long-term, you know, digital trend? And what do you, if you think it's going to be a long-term digital trend, what is the role for Taiwan in it, please?
Wearable definitely is a long-term digital trend. IoT definitely is here to stay. The question is in what form? Is it in the form that we commonly see today? Or are we going to have different innovation surfacing in the market in the next 5 years that truly change people's life? I believe it's the latter. There are going to be many companies that try to invent and come up with different solutions and different benefits to offer to consumers.
Yes.
And those innovators will deliver the value that consumers look for.
Okay. And given the fact that Taiwan has always been very competitive in the area of, IT, mobile technologies, do you think that Taiwan, at the current, projection, also will be very competitive in the area of IoT, in the area of wearable devices? What is your view?
IoT and Taiwan are a perfect fit.
Okay.
This is an industry that has a diversity of offerings.
Okay.
And requires speed, agility, innovations. And Taiwan is a place that is perfect for that.
Okay.
If you look at this industry, in Taiwan, within 3 hours drive, almost everything that one would need to create new invention, to create new solution, is in one place. All right. It's an IoT paradise.
Okay. And let me ask you, you mentioned a little bit about Computex in 2015. Yes. Of course, Noodle watches were named as one of the 9 revolutionary items at the conference. You were also asked to give a speech, a presentation about the Noodle watches. Let me ask you, right there on the floor, what was the response and the reaction when you introduced the Noodle watches? Were people receptive to the idea of a blank watch? It doesn't have anything on it other than your own imagination. What was their reaction?
The reaction was unexpectedly overwhelming.
Okay.
After the keynote speech, many journalists and many innovators came to talk to us and try to find out more about this blank watch that let you infuse your own idea and turn it into something that only you have.
Okay.
And it's not just on that day. For the remaining of the week, we have been receiving calls and inquiries to find out more.
Okay.
And I believe people saw something different.
Yes.
People saw something that was not another step counter, another heart rate monitors, another sleep monitor.
No.
They saw something that was unique, unlike anything they have ever seen. Nothing is for everyone.
No.
I also don't believe that everyone would be a heavy Lego players. But there are enough people who enjoy the process of creativity that Lego last year surpassed the business volume of Mattel. Yes. Can you imagine that?
Yes, right. Of course.
So even though it's not for everyone, it's for enough people. And I think Noodle is very much like that. It's, to think, to imagine is not for everyone, but it's for enough people that it's something that we cherish. And that's something that we like to do. Okay. So I think that's why we received the type of reaction that we saw at Computex.
Okay, good. And of course, we're speaking of an environment that is very different from 10 years ago. All right, we're looking at the, for example, Asia Pacific region. We have to take into consideration the rise of China. And for example, some of the industries that Taiwan used to have a competitive edge, like the panel display, like computers and things. Today, there are some very strong competitors, not just in Japan and Korea, but also in China as well. So what do you think that, as the revolution continues, now people moving into IoT, moving into wearable devices, how then, Taiwan can compete with these neighboring countries who are also very fundamentally, sound, and then maintain our technological advantage. What is your view?
One thing that I know about Taiwan is its ability to transform itself.
Yes, we're very resilient.
That's right. Think about the 1980s. That was the era of PC revolution.
Yes.
Taiwan was part of that.
Yeah.
Was a very big part of that. In fact, without Taiwan, there would not have been PC revolution.
Yes.
Right. In the 90s, it was the internet revolution. Taiwan was behind the scene, ushering that era forward.
Okay. Yes.
In 2000s, everything changed.
Okay.
It was no longer internet, right? It was mobile revolution. It was smartphones.
Yes.
Right? I still remember phones used to have 12 buttons on them, right?
Yes.
But Taiwan was there, and I was part of that as the chief marketing officer at HTC and as the founder of HTC's Magic Labs.
Yes.
So another example that Taiwan was able to transform itself to continue to be an important part of this global ecosystem.
Okay.
Taiwan has a great talent pool. Taiwan have people who are passionate and hardworking.
Okay.
And Taiwan has a track record of playing an important role in every era that we have experienced so far.
Okay, good.
I fully expect Taiwan to
remain.
play the same role,
Okay.
a similar role moving forward in the next big thing.
All right. And John, a lot of people, when they learn about Noodoe Corporation and what you are doing now, they're probably going to say that, hey, John, you're very ambitious. You know, you're very motivated. But you're doing something that 20, 30 years ago, some of the industry leaders today avoided doing. For example, branding your own products. Why is it that you are thinking of doing something very differently, you know, from previous, you know, tech giants in Taiwan, and then you want to set up your own corporation and also market your own brand? Do you think that maybe in the next 10 years, when IoT is a huge, you know, wave, that, you know, branding products and services will be a necessary component in the revolution? What is your view?
I think there are many right answers
to
the world.
All right.
There are many right ways of doing things. I just happen to pick one way.
All right.
And other smart people probably would pick their own ways.
Yeah.
The reality is that we are not doing something that's that different. What we are doing is not unlike what Apple Computer did in the 70s, creating its own brand, doing something that nobody has ever done before, and innovating something that was unique for its time. And there were many other companies that did the same thing for the last 30 years. And of course, there are many other companies that chose to be the behind-the-scenes suppliers and became very successful. So there are multiple ways to deliver value to the market.
Different ways of traveling to Rome.
That's right.
And John, you are a marketing specialist. Let me ask you, a lot of people say that, you know, Taiwan hasn't really done a very good job of marketing itself. And also now with a, you know, strong competition from neighboring countries like China, Korea, and Japan, you know, how can we, you know, whether it's the government, whether it's the private sector, whether it's the public at large in general, how can we try to better market ourselves? You know, whether it's the cultural creativity industry, whether it's, you know, the mobile technology industry, whether it's the wearable devices, how can we try to market Taiwan's advantage better on the international stage? What is your suggestion?
I'm an optimist.
All right.
I look at all the assets that Taiwan has. Great talents, speed, innovation capability, and the ability to deliver. I think I need not to explain why Taiwan is good at delivering these factors.
Exactly.
And the only thing that Taiwan just need to do a little bit more is the last mile. In fact, the last centimeter
Okay.
to connect to the consumer.
Okay. Which is?
To explain and connect to the end consumers on what Taiwan is capable of doing.
Yeah.
And in many ways, HTC was doing that.
Okay.
And in many ways, there are actually many boutique Taiwan brands
Okay.
that successfully did that. Not necessarily in the high-tech industry,
Okay.
but have successfully done that.
Yeah.
And we are doing the same thing at Noodle as well.
Exactly. Some people have come on the program in the past and saying that we have to learn to tell the stories of Taiwan a little better. Because they use the analogy, for example, if you travel to another popular destination in Asia, they will give you fancy brochures. They will tell you all the right places, food to eat. But in Taiwan, maybe we don't have the fancy brochures, but we certainly have the hospitality of the people. We certainly have a lot of the natural attractions, and also with some of the unique culinary treats that people only experience in Taiwan.
Yeah.
So certainly we have to learn to tell our stories a little better. And John, certainly been a pleasure to have you on the program today. Want to wish you and Noodle Corporation all the best in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Raymond.
Okay. Thank you very much for watching our program today. I'll see you next time on MacroView Television. Thank you.